Greetings and welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Nanajasi, transformational coach here at Inner Mileage, where we help folks heal, overcome their trauma so they can get past limiting self-beliefs and live resonant lives right here, right now. Today we're going to talk about shifting from being programmed to becoming a programmer, how you break the code from being programmed to becoming a programmer of your own reality. So it's important to understand that a lot of the choices you're making are based on the programs that run with you. In other words, are you really making the choices, or have the choices already been made for you? Most people, and I don't have the data to support this, but I'll conjecture if you were at a cocktail party or at a networking event, most people would believe they are the architects of their own lives, their careers and choices. But it's important to realize that your thoughts, emotions, and desires, even your fears, were programmed into you long before you ever had the chance to question them. That's just the way it works. And before you dismiss this as conspiracy, consider this. I'll make some references. In 1971, Professor Zumbardo conducted something known famously as the Stanford Prison Experiment. That showed that people will conform to roles assigned to them with alarming ease. That's a program. Similarly, in Milgram's obedience studies from 1961, it proved that ordinary people would administer lethal shocks to strangers simply because an authority figure told them to. And then we know from an epigenetic standpoint, epigenetics reveals that trauma alters DNA. It alters DNA and is passed on generationally, meaning that the fear of your ancestors are encoded in your body. And in this study by Yehuda and others, they found out that the trauma gene can be passed on between 7 to 14 generations. So you realize that we're not just individuals, we are products, all of us, human beings, human doings, are products of conditioning. We are products of societal structures and products of ancestral trauma. And by ancestral trauma, it's nothing mystical here. It just means your parents, their parents, their parents, and so forth, right? So you realize that there's a paradox, that if programming is real, then so is reprogramming. And this is born from the law of polarity, that if this condition exists, it's proof that that condition can exist too. And that means we don't have to be trapped in the script we were handed. It also means the moment you wake up to this reality, you are no longer just a character in your play. You're no longer a NPC, as my 16-year-old would say, a non-player character. But you are the main character. You're the playwright, the coder, the programmer. So let's go into the details of the science of programming. For example, you didn't choose your first language, did you? You didn't choose your first beliefs, did you? And you didn't choose your first fears, or did you? Everything was installed into you like software before you ever had a firewall to protect yourself. In fact, psychologist John Watson, who's known as the father of behaviorism, said, "Give me a dozen healthy infants and I guarantee to take any one at random and train him to become the type of specialist I might select. Doctor, lawyer, artist, thief." Think about that. And it is said that typically by the age of 7, 95% of your behavior is automated by your subconscious mind. This is Lipton, based on the biology of belief. And these subconscious scripts dictate who you trust, what you believe about money, whether you think love is safe or dangerous, how you respond to authority, and whether you believe free will. In fact, there's a series called the App series, where this gentleman, Michael Apted, took these children at the time they were 7 from different socioeconomic backgrounds and asked them the big questions. Well, where would you live? What do you want to be? Who are you going to marry? What do you think about money? What do you think about race? And every 7 years, he would go back and ask them the same questions. And you see this whole notion that I've just described play out. So you realize that the code runs deep. It's not just personal, it's generational. In fact, Harvard studies on intergenerational trauma or transgenerational trauma show that, for example, Holocaust survivors pass down heightened stress responses to their children. Descendants of enslaved Africans display increased cortisol levels, predisposing them to chronic stress. Children of war survivors inherit epigenetic markers that make them more prone to anxiety and depression. This is why trauma repeats itself like an unbroken loop. But what happens when you wake up and see the loop? This is where we talk about the awakening, how and when the code begins to crack. So the way you know that an awakening process is beginning is you start to feel disoriented. You realize that the rules you followed before weren't universal laws. They were man-made, woman-made, person-made. They were just someone else's programming. Spiritual traditions call this moment, for example, in Hinduism, moksha, which is liberation from illusion. In Gnosis, it's called Gnosis. In Gnostic Christianity, that is a secret knowledge that frees the soul. In Zen Buddhism, for example, this is called Satori, right? Or in Theravadan Buddhism, it's Nibbana. Or coming into your bodhisattva nature towards nirvana. And in various African traditions, you will consider this as the veil being lifted, seeing beyond deceptions. In psychology, this moment is also known as cognitive dissonance, which is the painful clash between new awareness and old beliefs. It's the realization that your religion was designed to control you, that your work ethic serves other people who have interests, not your soul, that your fears, most of them, were inherited, they're not natural. And the pain of awakening is why most people resist it. But for those who embrace it, the next step is inevitable, that you must rewrite the code. So how do you become the programmer? How do you rewrite your reality? Well, to go from being programmed to becoming a programmer, you must master conscious coding, the art of reprogramming your own mind. And how do you identify bugs in your software, viruses in your hardware? Is to ask yourself, whose voice is running my mind? Whose voice is running my mind? What fears were installed in me? What fears were installed in me? What beliefs were given to me that do not serve me? What beliefs were given to me that do not serve me? So you realize that here, a lot of the work by Carl Jung, the undiscovered self, helps here. Internal family systems therapy, commonly known, very useful. So is journaling. And I'm speaking about this from a secular perspective, right? So what do you do when you start to rewrite your reality? Delete the old code. Meditation rewires the brain. Affirmations install new belief systems. And somatic healing rewires trauma at the cellular level. So the key is to continue to repeat this code until it rewires the old. And step 3 is to act like the programmer you are. For example, if you were already free, how would you speak? How would you walk? How would you decide? If your lineage depended on you breaking the cycle, what would you choose today? Every action is a line of code, every thought a command. And when you change the code, reality has no choice but to follow. So in conclusion, how do you become a generational architect? You realize that the curse was never supernatural, it was conditioning. But now you hold the pen. You're no longer trapped in history. You are creating it. You are the programmer, the biological programmer of your bloodline. If this resonated with you, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're reminded whenever we post new videos. If this connects with you and we can be of help, type transform in the comment section. Let us know what your experience has been in transitioning from being programmed to becoming the programmer. Remember, You are the programmer because there's literally no one like you biologically, physically, spiritually. You are an N of one. Keep ascending, keep shining, keep rising.